Hi everybody, I'm Adrianne. Welcome to Ageless with Adrianne. I wanted to talk to you today about the fountain of youth. So many people are asking me, so many of my Active Agers, how can I stay young? What can I do to stay young? I'm going to give you the answer. It's movement. But let me tell you why it's movement, and let's talk about it. Dr. Daniel Lieberman, he's a professor at Harvard in the, let me look at here, Department of Human Evolution Biology. He did a study, and in that study, they took 20-somethings and they had them stay in bed for 3 weeks. So no movement, very sedentary, very little activity, in bed for 3 weeks. At the end of those 3 weeks, when they looked at the body, the mind, those 20-somethings had aged to be that of somebody in their 40s. So after just 3 weeks of minimal to no movement, being sedentary, those individuals had aged to be like someone in their 40s. Which is crazy. That means they've aged 20 years in 3 weeks of no movement. So think about that. Think about how much movement you're getting in your day, because it will determine how you age. It will determine your quality of life. But here's something even better. They took those 20-somethings who had aged to be like that of someone in their 40s, and they had them exercise for 8 weeks. And after 8 weeks, they had reversed the damage that those 3 weeks had done. So I want you to think about this. This is a big deal, because that means as you are becoming more mature, as you are aging, you can slow that process down drastically simply by moving, by getting up and moving, doing your activities of daily life, walking, getting exercise. These things are so key to aging well. This is the fountain of youth. Movement is the fountain of youth. So think about that on the days where you don't feel like doing anything, you don't feel like moving. Think about, hey, I could age like somebody younger, or I can age really fast and get old fast. And get that movement in, get moving. The other thing I want you to think about that Dr. Daniel Lieberman had talked about is how people used to age back in caveman times. Think about this for a moment. So there were the hunters and gatherers, right? And the hunters were generally people, the parents, if you will, the adults who were in their probably 30s, 40s, maybe even their 50s. They were the hunters. They would go out and hunt. The gatherers were the grandparents, because they could no longer hunt because they had gotten older and more mature. Their bodies were doing different things, but they were still the gatherers. And those gatherers were out gathering longer than the hunters were out. So they were getting a ton of movement in, and they were doing more movement than the hunters. And so obviously some of that becomes part of the DNA, and that gets passed generationally from generation to generation. But the other thing that's really remarkable about the gatherers, and I want you to really think about this, is that when they passed away, when they became of an age that it was so old that they died, they weren't being kept alive on medications, and so they were living quality of life until their dying day. When they died simply because they were old and their bodies were just tired, as opposed to having chronic diseases and illnesses and being kept alive through medications, through all the means that we have today. Don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to medications. I'm not opposed to doctor interventions at all. But what I am trying to teach you and tell you is that the movement that they had, because they were active and they stayed active so long, their bodies responded to that, and they didn't need certain things that we now use when we have a more sedentary lifestyle. So this is really, really important, because that sedentary lifestyle will lead you down the wrong path. Physically, mentally, you have to keep moving. That is literally the fountain of youth as we know it, movement and exercise. And if we can continue to do that, we can age at a so much better quality of life than just sitting and popping pill after pill because we have high blood pressure because we don't exercise, or we have high cholesterol. Again, some of this is genetic and familial. I get that. I'm not opposed to medications when needed, but I think we are very quick to medicate as opposed to saying you should try some exercise first. So if you have a sedentary lifestyle, I highly recommend trying movement. If you don't know what to do, please reach out to me, comment below. I can guide you. I have a system. I know how to do it. But if you know how to do it, just start moving, start walking. Anything is better than nothing. Anything, any type of movement is better than just sitting. So think about how people aged in caveman times. Think about the fact that they just simply, their bodies were just old and they passed. Consider that, okay? I hope this was helpful. I hope that was good information. Dr. Daniel Lieberman, if you want to look him up, he's got brilliant information. But if you have questions or comments, leave them below and I'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks so much.